All right, it is Monday, February 9th, and I finished this morning power washing the inside of the room I'm converting into an office for the second time, and I'm glad I did it a second time because the floor was still filthy. So I'm going to take you in there, I'll show you that, and then I can basically start the reconstruction once it dries out. So let me flip this around. All right. So right here, I got these boards down so I don't drag sand in because it's kind of wet over here. As soon as you put your boots on this sand, it drags it right up into the room. So I got the fan going in here. It's almost dry. You can see there's a little bit of wetness here, but I took off the OSB on the gable end here. Let's go out here. Yesterday, I got that done, and I was surprised. I mean, it was really thin stuff. So I was thinking maybe I got enough aluminum, sheet aluminum, like what's on here, to finish this gable end off. So I went down to the Quonset hut and I pulled up some of the sheet aluminum, and I think I just have enough to cover this gable end, and I'm gonna have to piecemeal it. So I got pieces that will go from here to about here, and then I have some more pieces that'll go here and on the ends. So I can just get that covered with the remaining sheet aluminum that I have. But everything's been cleaned, got rid of all the dirt, the spider webs, the gunk, whatever, wasp nests, mud daubers, you name it. It's all gone, and now I can start to reconstruct in here. I think I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack out this wall with another 1/2 inch furring, and that'll get me, the sheetrock will go right past this window. So it's just going to get sheetrocked right over top of it. I did pull out all of the screws all along this window. There was about 30 of them. And as I suspected, it was glued into place. So I'm not going to go prying on it and trying to get it out of there. I'm just going to, like I said, fur this wall out with another 1/2 inch, and then the sheetrock will just go right over top of that window. So that's kind of the decision I decided to go with for the window. And then I've kind of got some other projects going on as well. So that's why things are going a little bit slowly. I was going to go back down to the Quonset hut and finish the trim around the carriage doors, but I got the ladders here, and I'd have to take them back down there and then bring them back up here and then take them back down there when I'm done. So I think I'm just going to wait till I'm done with the ladders here, and then I'll go down and finish the carriage doors. And just to show you, here is the one piece of aluminum that I have, and you can see it's marked out. These are the templates for the gable end. So it's one here, and then on the other side of this is the other one. So it goes from here, and you can see it's cut out like this to fit there. So that'll get me most of the way there, and then I got some other pieces for like near the ends of the gable end. And then, like I said, and on Saturday I went to Lowe's. I rented the trailer. I got some OSB. I got some plywood for the floor to go down here. I got some more 2x4s. I got some cinder blocks, some insulation, some more screws, you name it. So I really loaded up on a bunch of supplies. But out here, I'm starting to lay out the posts for the lines of vineyard, or just grapevines that I'm going to try growing. So this is what I got going here. Started digging the hole for it. I used those pieces of OSB to cover the holes just in case, you know, some deer come through here. They don't accidentally step into the hole and break a leg or something. So this is going to be the first post here, and then down there will be the end of it. That's 80 feet there. And then there'll be another one, a second row here down to there. And then over here, I'm gonna mark out like a square area, probably like maybe 40 feet by 40 feet. And I'm gonna plant some pumpkins and watermelon. So I need some more of these 10-foot 4x4s and some more of these cinder blocks. What I'm gonna do with the cinder blocks is the same idea as I did for the security camera tower down there and also the Starlink tower. When I put it in the ground, this block will go on this side at the very bottom, and then that block will go on that side of the post on the top. So this one will prevent the bottom from kicking out, and this one will prevent the top from leaning that way when I tighten up the wire. And having all of this surface area up against this post should make it pretty much rock solid. So we shall see if my theory is correct or not, but I think it should work out. And they're going to be down into the ground 4 feet, so that's pretty deep. And so it'll be 4 feet in the ground, 6 feet out of the ground, and then I'll have 2 wires going between them to support the grapevines. All right, well, that's about it for today. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to actually cut that aluminum for the gable end today, try and get those pieces in place and start to seal up the gable end and get the whole room sealed up. Once it's all sealed up, then I can take my time to finish the interior of it and, you know, get back to some other projects like finishing up the carriage doors and painting the floor in the Quonset hut. All right, well, that's it for now. Talk to you later. All right, Tuesday, February 10th, and I've been working on the gable end of this room that I'm converting into an office / entertainment room. And I've got all of the pieces of sheet aluminum cut for that gable end. So let me flip this around. I'll show you what I got. All right. So right now everything is just tacked into place because they all have to come off. They got to get sanded and 2 coats of paint put on them, and then I'll put them back up. And while they're off, I want to caulk all this underneath the eave there along the gable end. So I will do that, and then I'll come back and I'll put these in place. So what I have is, like I said, I had to piecemeal it. So there's 2 pieces here, 1, 2, and then there's 1 piece right up the center there. It goes all the way up to the peak behind these 2. And then there's a piece on the side that comes up to this rafter here and on there. And then there's 1 final piece down to the end on here, and 1 final piece here. It looks like it's missing, but it's this piece stuck in the window here that fits up in there. So like I said, I've got to pull them down. They're just tacked up. I'll clean them, paint them, put them back up, and in the meantime, seal it up with caulk, and then eventually I'll put a piece of trim right across here as a divider between the gable end and this back wall here. It'll be the same trim as I put around the carriage doors. I've got some extra of it. It should look good because this is going to be like a green color up here, and then it'll be red, and then the red of the mobile home here. All right, well, that's about all I got done today. That was a tough job, but I'm glad it's done with, and I'm glad that I was able to do it with aluminum because I think that's the right material to use, because everything around here is all aluminum. This is aluminum, that's aluminum. So yeah, it just fits with you know, all the other sheathing around this room. All right, well, that's it for today. We'll keep you up to date tomorrow. One final note on this door here. You can now see why the underlayment plywood was starting to bubble up and why it got water on there that caused the damage. You can see that from here to here, the seal along the bottom is just completely torn away. So I'm thinking I can replace that all the way along, and that should prevent any additional damage for the new floor that I'm going to put down. So just thought I'd mention that. It's always a reason for why things are the way they are. Alrighty, it is Thursday, February 12th, and yesterday I removed all of those pieces of sheet aluminum that I had cut and put up on that gable end. I took them down to the Quonset hut and sanded them and put 3 coats of paint on them, except for this piece over here in the end. It had some old paint on it, so I put the paint stripper on it and let it sit overnight. So later on I'll go down and clean that one off and get it painted. Fortunately, that can go in last, so maybe by this afternoon I'll have it painted up and it can go in. But I also spent a couple hours, believe it or not, caulking up underneath the eave here, just filling in any little crevices around this area. And the idea is basically just to deny any small insects, wasps, mud daubers or whatever, from getting into these little crevices and making their nests. Yeah, sure, they'll be able to build a nest maybe on the surface somewhere, but at least I will be able to see it and deal with it, spray it, hose it off, whatever, and you know, they won't be hidden from view. So that's the idea of caulking all these little nooks and crannies. Plus I'm going to paint it underneath there. I'm going to get it all one color, the same as the gable end here. All right, and then inside I spent some time caulking as well. I started caulking along the floor here and up there along the ceiling to the outside. There are some spaces that actually was open to the outside, so that's all pretty much sealed off. I'm also going to foam the foam sealant all along here just to make sure. There's actually some space over in here that I really couldn't get to with the caulk, so hopefully the foam will take care of that. And then also on this side I started doing the same thing with the caulk all along the ceiling there and then along the floor. I ran out of caulk, so there is still some work to do with that, especially on these walls over here. I didn't do anything on these walls. So today, before I put up the sheathing, I've got to put my nailer boards on these last 2 trusses here so that I can put the gusset plates on them while I have access, while it's nice and open up here. Plus I need a nailer board all along this back wall so that I have something to nail the drywall to, and it comes up here and then comes in here. I can nail it and hold it up at the very end. So that's got to get done before I put those pieces of aluminum sheathing back on. All right, so I'll just walk down to the Quonset hut and I'll show you what they look like, and then I'll come back and update later. All right, here in the Quonset hut, I've got 2 pieces of aluminum that I've got the paint stripper on here. That's that end piece on the southern side. Then I did one other piece, which is going to go right over the door. So that'll just complete it. And then these are the small pieces that I had cut out. And then there's also two more of the bigger ones. I got this one here, all painted, 3 coats. And then I have one up here on top of that sawhorse. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, there you go. That's about as high as I can get. So these are all ready to go back on except for these two. So I'll try and get these cleaned up today and painted, and then I'll get them on the gable end. All right, that's it for today. All right, it is February 12th, end of day, and I'll just cover what got done today. Boy, it was a long day of nothing but work that doesn't look like anything really happened, but I guess it's all just setup work for what comes next. All right, let's take a look. All right, so in here, let's see if you can see this. Back it off here. I got a couple of the gusset plates in place. First thing that I did, kind of running out of light here, but I got the nailer plates for these last 2 trusses up there, and there. Then I got these gusset plates put in on the first 2 trusses. I needed to get them in place while I had this gable end open, because otherwise, yeah, I mean, you can just tell it's really almost impossible to get into if you've got this closed off here. So I got that done, and also along this back wall, I got nailer plates for the sheetrock on the ceiling. I can nail into it to keep it up there on the very end. And take a look from the outside. So these pieces, I got that last piece over here that I had put the paint stripper on. That got cleaned off, and I added one more piece. I cut one more piece to go right over the door here. I put paint stripper on that this morning. I also got that cleaned off, and both of them are painted with a single coat. So I'm going to go back down to the Quonset hut tonight and put a second coat on, and then a third in the morning. And then these will all be ready to go up tomorrow by probably noon. So that's kind of what I got done today. Let's go down to the Quonset. I'll just show you those pieces of aluminum, and that'll be it for today. All right, these are the 2 additional pieces of aluminum that had to be paint stripped. This one here, this one goes over the door, and then this is the last southern tip of the gable end right there. So that's got, I think this one has 2 coats on it, and this one has 1. So I'll just put 2 more coats on both of them, and then that's it. They're all done, ready to go up. All right. Hopefully we'll get something done tomorrow that actually looks like something got done. All right, talk to you tomorrow. It is Friday, February 13th, end of day. Or at least I'm going to call it an early day today, because I got to run out and get some supplies for tomorrow morning. Ran out of those little neoprene washers and stainless steel screws for putting up the aluminum sheathing. But let me show you what I got done today. Let's flip around here. All right. I've got 2 of the 7 pieces of aluminum sheathing on this end, the gable end. There's a piece here. Oh, come on, focus. There's a piece right across the door that's just a rectangular piece there, and then the first sort of triangular piece up there. So everything is all painted and ready to go, but like I said, I ran out of the proper screws and washers, so I'm going to run out and get them, and then I can continue putting that up tomorrow. This over here, I got this sheathing put above this little opening for the air conditioner and below the opening for the air conditioner, and I started to frame up this little window here. I'm going to have to make some changes. This piece at the bottom here is cut out of a 4x4, and it needs to be a little longer. Sorry, too much sun there, but yeah, I need it to come out to the end on each side. So I'll recut this piece. That was just a piece I had laying around, but I think it works perfectly for this situation. And let's quickly go inside, and I'll show you the rest of the frame. So, see, let's back it out a little. Yeah, so I've got this piece of trim framing, and then I've got this lip here that I'll make a batten board that goes right up against and then screws into when the air conditioner is not actually in place. So that'll seal it off from the outside if I don't have an air conditioner in there. But 99% of the time, there will be an air conditioner in there. And then it'll just get packed out on the sides. And this, I've got to just move it a little bit back to be flush with the inside of this. And this has a little lip here for where the drywall will come in. And then I'll frame around it just to finish it off. And I also had to do a few little patches on the aluminum. There's about 10 of them. Just holes in the aluminum that I want to seal up before I put insulation and then drywall over top of it. So there's one over here, and there was, let's see, where were there? There's 3 here. It's hard to see in this darkness. 1, 2, and 3 up there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 down here. So I'm just using those little aluminum blanks with a little bit of clear caulk. The clear caulk seems to have a little bit more gluey property to it than the just the white caulk, but it works perfectly. You just put a dab on there and press it on there, and it seals it up perfectly. So that's all I really got done today. So hopefully I'll get the rest of the sheathing put on the gable end tomorrow. Oh, one more thing. I did come up with a solution. I didn't come up with it, but somebody else made the solution for the bottom of this door here. You can see that that's wide open now. I was able to remove the, what would you call it, the little sweep at the bottom. Let me show you what it had there. It was nothing really more than a piece of plastic with a little piece of rubber on the end. Let me show it to you. So here it is, and here's the side angle of it. So it just goes on the bottom of the door there, and this seals it at the bottom here. Well, I had some other door bottom seals for the carriage doors I was going to use in the Quonset hut, and I didn't end up using them. I went with something else. But I have these, and it fits really well, except it's a little too not wide enough for the door. So if I cut one side of this off, it should be perfect. It should just basically be the same as this, you know, just have one side, and then I'll just screw it and glue it to the bottom, and I think that should do it. So that should really seal me up on the door, and then I can reuse that door when I'm ready to put it back in. All right, well, that wraps it up for the week, and hopefully I'll talk to you next week. Take care. All right, Tuesday, February 10th, and I'm trying to get this first post for the vineyard into the ground, and I was shooting for 4 feet deep, but nah, that's not going to happen. 3 feet is about as deep as I can practically dig. So let me show you this hole. There it is. That is 3 feet exactly to the bottom. And at this point, I honestly can't get the dirt out of the bottom of the hole very easily. So I'm going to go with 3 feet, and we'll see what that gets me. All right. There's 3 feet. Well, 35 1/4 inches. All right, there's the cinder block in the hole. So I'm going to put the post right about there in the center, start filling it back up. When I get to about 2-3 inches below the ground, I'll put the other cinder block right here. All right, there's the post in the hole right next to the cinder block, right at the bottom, right up against it. So now I'm going to start filling the hole, and again, when I get to about maybe 10 inches from the top, I'll put the other cinder block here and then cover it with like 2 more inches and pack it down. Now I am going to put some water into this to help the sand settle, and hopefully that'll pack like concrete when it's all dried out. Okay, got the post in the hole and it's plumbed in both directions. I put some sand in there. Now I'm going to add some water, get it to settle, and I'll fill it the rest of the way, and before I get to the top, I'll put the other cinder block right here against the post. And here is the other cinder block on the front side, the north side. So that surface area of this against the post should help to prevent it from moving that way. So the bottom one prevents the bottom from kicking out, and the top one prevents it from tilting forward. That's it. Post number 1 is in the ground. So only 3 to go for the vineyard, and then 4 more for the garden.